Welcome to North of Now, where accomplished people become the authors of their next chapter. If you're approaching retirement, already retired, or simply wondering what life after work is really supposed to look like, you're in the right place. On this channel, we'll explore the emotional and practical sides of retirement through conversations with experts and ideas that can help you create a life filled with purpose, direction, and joy. Today, we're starting with a topic that stopped me in my tracks. In a conversation I had with Jim Capuano, he introduced me to something he calls the Great American Retirement Myth. It challenged assumptions I'd heard my entire life about how Americans prepare for retirement, and more important, what they often overlook. The more we talked, the more convinced I became that everyone approaching retirement needs to hear this conversation. So I invited Jim, president of Integrity Life Brokerage, to join us and explain exactly what the Great American Retirement Myth is and what it could mean for your future. So let's dive right in. Welcome to North of Now, Jim.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Jim Capuano. I am the president of the Integrity Life Brokerage based in Babylon, New York, which is a small town on Long Island. I have been in the financial industry since 2007. I started as an advisor with MetLife. In 2012, I left the advisory retail role and went into wholesale for a private company where I helped advisors all around the country plan their insurance practice. So I worked with P&C brokers, health insurance brokers, financial planners, financial advisors, and whenever they had an insurance need, I would try to get them to come to me so their insurance business went through my practice. I did that for 7 years, and I left and I started the Integrity Life Brokerage doing the exact same thing. And I kind of found a niche market with financial advisors, with people that plan for retirement. And I started to see that there was something missing, and I really couldn't quite put my finger on it. They wouldn't really consider the products that I was presenting them for retirement, even though I knew that there was a fit for them, and I couldn't find out why they weren't doing it. And I couldn't figure out why no one understood why my products had such a good fit. And then one day I heard, who's now my partner, this gentleman, Dan McGrath, who's a best-selling author, speak about IRMA and Medicare and Social Security and the way it really works, and light bulb went off, and I said, this is it. This is what I've been looking for, because I've been in the industry at that point 16 years and I never heard it. I had no idea it existed. And I said, if I don't know it, how many advisors don't know it? And
It's
that's
crazy.
where we came up with the Great American Retirement Myth, and it's kind of ballooned since then over the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay, now you've got to explain to us
Yeah.
what this myth is and why it's so dangerous.
Absolutely. So what the Great American Retirement Myth is based on is this thing called IRMA. It's your income related monthly adjustment amount. It is the surcharge that gets added to your mandatory Medicare premium based on your earned income. That was the initial kind of shock for people, as they would get their Social Security statement. They would see that their Medicare premium came out of it. They would get this additional surcharge, and they could never understand what it was. It just said income related monthly adjustment amount. And they would go to their financial professional and their accountant. They say, oh, it just means you're making too much money. You're doing really good. Don't worry about it.
Uh,
So we kind of dove into that, and we said, well, it doesn't mean you're doing too good. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't worry about it. It means that you weren't planning properly for retirement, because certain things count and certain things don't. And then once we started really diving into what counted, we discovered the American retirement is just a myth. It's a lie. Nothing makes sense. And if you define a myth, it's a story or a tale that's been passed from generation to generation that is rarely questioned, even though there's not a whole lot of factual evidence to it being true. It's just taken, hey, this is what it is. I'm not going to argue. That's what we believe the American retirement is, because most people plan for their retirements the same way that their parents and grandparents did, even though everything in their life, everything in the laws, everything in the financial community has changed. Why hasn't planning changed?
Yeah, we all grew up hearing that same retirement story. Work hard, saving your 401k, retire at 65, and live happily ever after. Isn't that
Yeah.
terrible?
I mean, it's a great story, but it's a myth. Once we started kind of uncovering this and saying, does this really make sense? You can save money in your 401k, but eventually you have to take that money out. And if you don't, the government tells you you have to take it out. When you take it out, it gets added to your income. It gets added to at least half, most likely 85% of your Social Security check income. It gets added to capital gains income. If you have a pension, if you have any wages, if you have any royalties, anything like that gets added all together. Muni bonds. Everyone says invest in muni bonds because they're triple tax free. They are triple tax free, but there's 4 taxes and they're not quadruple tax free. Your muni bond income gets added to your IRMA calculation. So the government looks at all this and says, you're making too much money, you lose your subsidy. And it's scary how few people in the country understand how Medicare and Social Security actually work, but it is absolutely terrifying how few financial advisors understand how Medicare and Social Security work.
Well, even people who are professional at calling you up all the time and trying to set you up with your Medicare, they're really just trying to set you up with, which doctors you can see,
Yeah.
what's
Buy a
covered.
supplement plan, get the best drug coverage. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Buy a Medigap, buy a Medicare Advantage. They're not planning. But in fairness, that's not their job.
Whose
It's your
job is it? How are you
it's your
supposed to find this
advisor's
out?
job to help you plan. So what I see a lot of advisors are truly focused on rate of return. Look at how much money I made you. What they don't talk about is how much money you actually keep. Would you rather get 6% and keep it all, or get 12% and give 50% to the government and then raise your tax rates and pay more in Social Security?
God, is this the big lie? What's the big lie?
It's part. I think the biggest part of the big lie is deferring taxes. In the tax environment we're in right now, if you're putting money in your 401k, your 457, your SEP, your Simple, your 403b, an IRA, I think you're out of your mind. If you look at where we are historically in tax rates, we're very, very low. What happens to things that are very, very low? There's only one place for them to go, and that's up. So you're deferring taxes while you're working, while you're physically able to earn income, and you're deferring them on a lesser amount at a lower tax rate. Then you're letting that amount grow, hopefully to a higher amount, which your financial advisor is going to be very, very pleased to tell you did 12% last year. And then most likely at a higher tax rate when you're no longer able to earn income. Now you're retired, you're more vulnerable. Now you're going to pay tax.
Well, that's
It makes
the
sense.
thing that people say. Would you rather pay tax on the seeds or on the crop?
That's, yeah. But the entire retirement system is based on paying it on the crop. And there's a specific reason for that. There's a reason the government makes it very easy for you to defer taxes in a 401k. Why 401ks are kind of set it and forget it. Comes out of your paycheck automatically. You don't have to do anything. There's a reason that they're raising the contribution limits every year. And everyone says, oh, well, they're trying to help us get ahead. There's a reason there's a catch-up provision. They want us to help make it easy for us. No, they need you to put money aside. Because not only is it their savings account just as much as it's your savings account, what no one talks about, and the basis of the Great American Retirement Myth is that's what's going to save Social Security. Because the more taxes you pay in the future, the less you actually get in your Social Security check. So whenever anyone says Social Security and Medicare are going to go broke, I always say they're not going to go broke. And my partner puts it perfectly. He says they have the largest sales force in the country. And when I do my seminars, I say, who knows what the sales force is? And every time the answer is the same. People say, oh, it's the IRS. And I said, you would think it's the IRS, but it's not. It's the financial community. It's every financial advisor in the country works for the federal government and they don't even know it.
That's shocking. That makes me a little sick. Except for now, I still don't fully understand IRMA, IRMAA. Could you put that into plain English for
Yes.
me?
So, generally speaking, Medicare, you're forced to go on Medicare once you go on Social Security if you don't have another form of healthcare. So 99% of Americans that are in Social Security and of Medicare age are on Medicare. So if you work until 70, but you decide you're going to take your Social Security at 65, you don't have to go on Medicare as long as you're covered by your group plan. Most likely your group plan is going to put you on Medicare. But some groups don't force you to take Medicare. You can stay on their plan. Once you retire and you lose that coverage, if you want to maintain your Social Security check, you have to enroll in Medicare. If you do not enroll in Medicare, you forfeit all current, future, and past Social Security benefits.
I don't know anybody who's ever said, I don't want Medicare, but that would be pretty dangerous.
We had one guy, actually, my partner Dan had a client in Maryland, lived off the grid. You know, one of those guys that had his own oil tank in his ground, didn't rely on anything, did not want Medicare, but he wanted his Social Security check because he worked his entire life.
Putting money in there.
He's putting money into the system, and he said, "I don't want health insurance. I'm living out in the woods somewhere. I'm never going to a doctor. Give me my entire Social Security check." He got away with it for about 6 months. Then the IRS cut off his Social Security check and sent him a bill for the premiums that they paid him.
Oh,
So they're forcing you to go on it. Which, I mean, most likely everyone needs health insurance. So the fact that you're forced to go on Medicare, it is what it is. But what they don't tell you is your Medicare premium comes directly out of your Social Security check. Now, financial advisors, a lot of them, when they're doing a retirement plan, they look up what your Social Security is supposed to be based on your information, and they'll say, oh, you're going to get $3,500 a month. Okay, good. Now, you need $7,000 a month to live comfortably. We have to figure out an additional $3,500. So this is what we need to save. This is what your nest egg needs to be. If we want to withdraw 4%, which is the industry standard, you need to grow to X amount. What they don't factor in is you're not getting $3,500 a month. You're getting $3,500 a month less Medicare premiums. And Medicare premiums are going up at an exponential rate. So 25 years from now, what's going to happen to your Social Security check? It's not going to go up with the cost of inflation because the increase in Medicare is going to eat that up. Part B is pretty protected, but Part D is not. Part D can actually lower your Social Security benefit. And the way Social Security works is the government pays 75% of the premium and you pay 25% of the premium. It's like this. Where IRMA kicks in is there's income limits. If you make over a certain limit as an individual or a married couple, the government subsidy goes down and your contribution goes up. So if you make a lot of money in retirement, the government could be paying 25% and you could be paying 75%. The issue is the financial community doesn't care about it because they're saying, hey, that means you're doing really good. You can afford $600 or $700 a month. Yeah, if you're making $500,000 a year as a retired couple, is $600 or $700 a month going to kill you? Probably not. Does it mean you want to pay it? I would assume no. You probably don't want to pay it, but is it going to kill you? No. The problem is if you're 70 years old now and you plan to live to 90, that's 20 years. Medicare is inflating at over 7.5% a year. In New York, it went up by 11% last year. So let's just say it's going to go up by 7.2%. I use that number specifically. 7.2% means it's going to double every 10 years. So think about a 60-year-old right now. In New York, it's around I'll say $205 to make the numbers easy. $205 a month per person for Part B. By the time you're 70, that's $410. By the time you're 80, that's $820. By the time you're 90, that's $1,640 a month per person. That's $3,300 per couple. When you're 90, I hope everyone makes it to 90. But now think about it. You're supposed to be getting less expensive as you get older. At 90, you have very, very little opportunity to earn money. What you have is what you have. And the government keeps raising your healthcare costs.
And people are already worried about outliving their money.
And this is never discussed. That's the myth. We do a report in New York where I am. If you're a 60-year-old couple, you're planning to live to 90, without IRMA, just base Medicare, if you want to be fully insured, meaning you're going to buy a supplemental plan, you're going to be fully covered, all your deductibles are covered, you have no out-of-pocket costs when you go to a doctor, fully insured, you're at about $1.1 million in healthcare costs in retirement. So I always ask in my seminars, raise your hand if you work with a financial advisor that's prepared you for the potential of a $1.1 million cost in retirement. And as you can imagine, this is where people start looking around like, I'm not the only one, right? Am I the only one with a financial advisor that hasn't told me this? They don't talk about it. It's just something that is never discussed. And I don't know why. Well, I know why, because it doesn't fit the narrative. The narrative in the financial industry has been saving your 401k, max it out when you can. All your leftover money goes into non-qualified, buy stocks, buy bonds, do managed money, do mutual funds, do all these things. We're going to grow a big bucket of money. Your tax rate's going to be lower in retirement. I'm sorry, they don't say tax rate. They're smart. They say your tax bracket will be lower in retirement. And then you can take all the money out and you'll get a discount on taxes, and then you live happily ever after because you'll have your Social Security check. That's been the conversation for the last 40 years. Now, could you imagine the financial firm that's going to come out and say, you know what, we might have screwed that one up?
No, I can't
Never happened.
imagine that.
No.
What about, okay, so I want to know about tax diversification.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? And can that help you?
Not only can it help you, it's almost essential in the environment we're in today. So if I'll sit down with a client, and now mind you, I don't do managed money anymore. I haven't done it in years. I'm strictly fixed products, but I have dozens of sub-advisors that do portfolio management, managed money, 401ks, all of it. We talk to them. If I ask a client, are you diversified? Is your retirement diversified? It's a common question. Everyone should be asking it of themselves and their advisor. And they'll say, yeah, I'm in large cap, mid cap, small cap, bonds, emerging markets, precious metals. I'm spread out all over, which is good because if the tech bubble bursts, large cap's going to get hit, but emerging markets could come up, something like that.
But that's investment diversification.
It's the only diversification people talk about. Then I'll say, all right, good. What about tax diversification? And they'll look at me like I have three heads. I said, well, how much of your money is taxable and how much of your money is not taxable? And they'll say, well, obviously all of my money is taxable, whether it's qualified plans, meaning you get taxed as ordinary income at your effective marginal tax rate or your effective rate, or it's capital gains, which is going to be anywhere between 15 and 20%. And I'll say, okay, but why don't you have any non-taxable money? And every now and then I'll get somebody, they'll say, you mean like a Roth? I said, yeah, Roth is a good example. You'll take the tax hit now when you contribute it, it'll grow tax deferred, and when you take it out, it's tax free. But that's the only form of non-taxable money that people think of, and they're becoming more popular. They're becoming more popular with contributions inside of 401ks, Roth 401ks. Roth IRAs are still tough because there's an income limitation on them.
Right.
But people are starting to look into Roth conversions a lot more. They don't want, it's too much of a pill for them to swallow to see the tax hit. And they're like, it makes sense, but I can't do it. So I'll just start contributing to my Roth 401k. Okay, it's better than nothing, but you still have this time bomb waiting for you called your qualified money.
It is a time bomb.
It's a time bomb. Because the government tells you when you have to take it out. If you're not taking it out, they tell you, all right, time to start taking it out. And then they tell you how much you have to take out. So the one thing that we talked to them about is alternative retirement planning. And this is where financial advisors really start to squirm because in their world, these are 4-letter words. We talk about cash value life insurance and we talk about specific annuities. And now annuities have a bad rap because income from an annuity, even though it could be non-qualified, meaning you've already paid tax on the money, gets taxed as ordinary income, the growth on it. But there are ways and certain designs inside of an annuity to get a really nice tax break on the money. So you can get something called an exclusion ratio. If you get a product with a 60% exclusion ratio, that means 60% of the money you take out is not considered taxable and only 40% is. So if your effective tax rate is 24%, you have a 60%, making a 50% exclusion ratio. You have to pay tax on half of the money. So you're paying an effective tax rate of 12%. That's still less than capital gains. So everyone says, well, capital gains is going to be less than ordinary income. It should be, doesn't necessarily mean it will be, but it could be. But that's only going to come into play if there's not an exclusion ratio. If you get a good exclusion ratio, your effective tax on an annuity could be less than it could be on a regular managed money account. And here's why that's an important thing to point out to people. We talked about Social Security most likely going down. It's just going to get too expensive. If you're making too much money, it goes down even faster. But just base Social Security, I don't see it ever increasing even with COLA. It's just too expensive. So for most people who don't have a pension, Social Security is their only form of guaranteed income in life. There is one product an individual can purchase that will guarantee they never outlive their money. That is an annuity. So could it be tax effective? Yes. Could it be a worse tax than managed money? Yes. But does it give you peace of mind that you say, hey, listen, I'm looking here. By the time I'm 77, my Social Security benefit is not going to be enough. So I'm going to take a chunk of my money now when I'm 65 and then put it into an annuity that I know when I turn 77, when I need the money, is going to guarantee that I get X amount a month for the rest of my life.
For the rest of your life.
And then there's ways to protect it where if you pass away before the whole thing is paid out, your beneficiaries will get it. So these are very, very powerful tools for planning later in life income. But you can't wait till later in life. You have to start planning it now.
Right. So I'm thinking about someone maybe 10 years from retirement who has been doing the traditional thing. What's the first question they should be asking, and who should they ask?
They should be asking their financial advisor. Hopefully they're working with one that has actually taken the time to relearn the rules of retirement. The government, I will give them credit for this. They're not keeping this a secret. Mm-hmm. It's public knowledge. Anyone that wants to spend the time to learn about it can find the information. The problem is, like I said, it doesn't fit the narrative. So companies just don't want to talk about it. So I would say somebody 10 years into retirement, start putting money in your Roth. Don't take the tax break now because it's only a time bomb. Start looking into the feasibility of Roth conversions. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow, but you're better to do it now than when you're vulnerable and unable to earn income. Depending on your age, maybe cash value life insurance, but probably not for you. And strongly consider looking at an annuity. Furthermore, somebody that's already retired, 65 to 70, an annuity is still a long-term plan for them because they're going to need money when they're 80. So say, all right, well, this is my bucket earmarked for when I turn 80. I'm going to put it in an annuity now, knowing that I'm going to get X amount in the future. So there's never an age where you can't start to plan to make things better. If you want to avoid IRMA, it's 100% avoidable. You can make $1 million a year and not pay a penny in IRMA if you're in Roth cash value life insurance. Cash value life insurance is not taxable if done correctly. So for people 35 to 50, I tell them, I know that your financial advisor is going to be dead set against this. And your accountant's not going to understand it and say, no, don't do that. But you have to look at this with an open mind. I tell everyone, unprogram yourself from the hamster wheel you're on.
It is a hamster wheel. And back in the
100%.
day, we're still doing this the old-fashioned way when people would retire at 65 and pass away at 67. So they didn't really have to dig too deep into this.
No, they sure didn't. And that's part of the problem with Social Security. That's why the government's changing the rules. They have to do it to survive.
Whew.
Like cash value life insurance is one of the things I explain to people. They say life insurance is a protection product. You're right. Life insurance is a protection product. We call it a LIRP, a life insurance retirement plan. It's an entirely different design of life insurance. You're not buying it for death benefit. You actually buy the lowest death benefit you're allowed to buy.
Right.
You put in money. I don't call it premium. I call it a contribution because you're paying yourself. The cash value grows tax deferred, and you loan it to yourself, most likely at no interest, and it's tax free. So if you're getting 6-7% on this money, which is not abnormally high, it's actually pretty statistically what they're going to do over a 40-year span. every single year, on average 6 to 7%. And there's no downside, which is important because with mutual funds and managed money, if you average 6 or 7%, your real return is not 6 or 7% because you're starting at a lower number when you have a down year. So your real return will always be less than your average return. With cash value life insurance, certain products like Index UL, which people in the industry are like, terrible product. It's not a terrible product. There are terrible advisors that sell it.
That's
There are
right.
terrible designs. There are terrible plans put in place. But the product itself is not terrible if done correctly. You don't lose money in the market. So if you're averaging 6 or 7%, the worst you do in any given year is zero. 6 or 7% average is your real return. It's the same as getting 6 or 7% every single year. But now people will say the market will average 12%, maybe 10%, however you invest. The difference is I don't know tax on this. So I have to take out less. So as I take out less, it'll grow more while I'm retired than yours will because you have to take out more. So will your balance be higher in managed money than it would in cash value life insurance the day you retire? 100%. Will the cash value life insurance most likely pay you more money over the course of your life than managed money will? I would say there's a very good chance it will. And it does not affect IRMA. So it not only does it possibly pay you more, it doesn't lower your guaranteed income through Social Security.
Oh my God, that's really so smart, and nobody talks about it. So, what would you say is the last thing, or the only one thing from today's conversation that you hope people remember?
Deprogram yourself. That's the biggest thing. Don't blindly follow retirement advice because it's what everyone else does or it's what always has been done. You're a unique individual. Your needs are like no one else's needs. Your portfolio is like no one else's portfolio. Ask questions. Find what makes sense to you. You might ask these questions and think, you know what? I don't think tax rates are going up. I think the government's going to figure out Medicare and Social Security. I'm comfortable. Excellent. If that's what you determine, but don't let the advisor determine it for you. Ask the questions, get the answers, and then you make a decision as to what makes sense for you and your particular situation.
Right. The advisor's priorities may be quite different from yours. So, anyway, so this is a whole new world of retirement planning and saving. But also in my retirement coaching, I noticed that people who have plenty of money, even if they feel confident, whether it's false confidence or real confidence, they're still worried about who they are. Once you can get past somebody worried about outliving their money, and you can start talking to them about their future life, the next possibly 20 to 30 years, they're going to say, you know, I don't know what to do. I don't even know who I am anymore. And they're not thinking about the money. They're thinking about their purpose. You know, they've spent 30 years, maybe 40 years becoming someone. And then they're supposed to drop out of that, lose all that structure, lose everything, their title, the respect, everything. And they're supposed to become someone new. So while you're helping people financially to prepare, I'm helping them emotionally. And it seems to me that these two conversations belong together.
I would agree because there's nothing more that will affect them emotionally than to realize that they've been lied to their entire life about how their retirement's going to go.
And they probably won't trust themselves very much anymore for making decisions since they believed the old story. And you kind of lose your confidence. And I'm sure, have you worked with clients who had it all figured out and they still struggled with retirement themselves?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in my industry, advisors, I know dozens of advisors that are in their late 70s. And they said, I tried it. I can't sit at home. I have to work. I was bored. I don't like golf. I don't want to go fishing. You know, my wife,
Absolutely.
I'm driving my wife crazy. So I'm just going back to work because it's what I like to do.
And gray divorce is the highest rate of divorce right now because those guys are coming home, and the husband and wife haven't ever spent this much time together,
Yeah.
except for before kids. And now they're looking at each other. It's like, I got to get out of here, or
Yeah,
I
you get
might kill
stir
him.
crazy. I got to go do something. I mean, I got to be out of the house for a couple of hours a day. And if you don't have a hobby, it's hard to find something to do.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? And I coach people on this. There are some people that they can't leave their job because they're afraid of jumping into that great wide open. But some of them really need to keep working. And, people can change how they work, but I'll probably work till I fall over because I can't sit around.
Yeah. And again, that's going to hurt Irma because when you work, you're earning income. Earned wages are just as bad as qualified money. When I say bad, I mean tax wise and according to Irma. So if you're retired and you have a small part time job that you just need to get out of the house and you're making $20,000 or $25,000 a year, you might not think it matters, but now that $25,000 a year gets added to your RMDs, which are $150,000 a year, which gets added to your Social Security, which between the two of you is $60,000 a year. And now all of these things add up, and next thing you know, you have a household income of $275,000, and your Medicare premium costs you double what it's supposed to.
Okay, so I'm going to start a business called Cash Makes No Enemies for
Yeah,
retired people to work cash only jobs.
yeah, it's a smart idea. Government's gonna love that.
I hope nobody's listening.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, you've shown us why the old financial playbook no longer fits today's world. And in my work, I've discovered that the old playbook doesn't really apply to retirement either. And it's not about leaving work, it's about walking into a life where financial confidence matters and purpose matters and identity matters and community matters. And most of all, I'll shake my finger at everyone, health matters. Health is probably the key to all of this. If you want to keep working, you've got to stay healthy in body and mind. But the goal is not simply to make it to retirement. The goal is to create a retirement that's rich in every sense of the word. And I really believe that what I do helps people to appreciate the life that they've created through their financial coaches or advisors. I mean, you could have all the money in the world and be empty inside, and that's
Hmm.
good. So I'm so happy, sort of, for your educating us on this great American retirement myth. People,
No, I appreciate it.
are you talking about this? Where can people learn about what you're doing?
I have a book coming out, hoping in the next 2 to 3 weeks, called "The Great American Retirement Myth."
Oh, good.
Um, there's a website for it where you can join the waiting list, and then once the book is out on Amazon, everyone will get the link on the website. It breaks down briefly what it is. There's a preview of the book. There's actually a link where you can click on it, enter your financial information, and get a snapshot of what your tax and Medicare liability is.
What?
Yeah, it's you just put it on, you enter where your assets are. There's no name, you don't have to put any of your information or anything like that. It just gives you a snippet of, hey, this is what your picture looks like, this is how much you're projected to own Medicare, this is how much you're projected to own taxes.
God, this is so important.
It is. And when I show people that, they're shocked because it's a number that no one's ever showed them before. I sat with a couple last week. They're doing well. I wouldn't say they're wealthy, but they're doing well, they're comfortable. And I came back, I said, good news, you only owe the government $2.75 million. The guy near fell off the table.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I said, oh, you mean your financial advisor didn't tell you that? Because you have all of your money in qualified accounts and your Social Security, because you're saying you're going to wait to 70 to take it, is going to be this. Yeah, no problem. Just 2.7,
Wait.
just write the check now.
So qualified means it's already been paid taxes on.
No, qualified means it has not been paid
Oh,
tax. It's still
oh.
qualified for tax. So 401ks, 403bs, 457s, SEP simples, deferred comp, IRAs, all the things that accountants tell you to take the deduction on now. Because remember, an accountant's job is to reduce your tax liability today. They don't talk about your tax liability when you're retired because they're going to be retired.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to put all of this information about how to get in touch with the great American retirement myth and to learn more and to get the book and to go to the website, and all that stuff will be down in the description of this video. And I want to thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you. This has been great.
Oh my goodness. It's a little bit like a gut punch, or Remember back in the old days, like with cartoons, when somebody would pull the chair out from under someone when they were sitting down? So it's,
So I do this seminar. I've done probably close to 100 seminars called the Great American Retirement Myth all over the country. And like the second or third slide is always a picture of Mike Tyson. Okay, so as one of the greatest philosophers of our time, he's had many wonderful quotes, but his best quote is, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. You know, everyone in this room has a retirement plan. This is the punch in the face. Because after you see this, you're going to question everything you've done. And they do. I show them the statistics, I show them the numbers, all of which is in the book. And they go, why haven't I heard this yet?
we've got to get the word out. And I want to thank you for being here. And I want to thank you all for being here. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the North of Now YouTube channel so it can grow and reach more people who are traveling north of now. And I'm Kat Stone. This is North of Now, where accomplished people become the authors of their next chapter. And I will see you next time.
Thank you so much. This has been great.